Let's start with a little background in regards to the Palestinian banquets at the time of Jesus. At any given banquet, the male guest would recline on the couches which are placed in the middle of the room, and they would lean into the dinner, leaning on their left elbow, and they would eat with their right hand. It was a big disgrace, by the way, to ever touch anything with your left hand, but that's another sermon. The one who was at the center of the display of couches was clearly in the place of honor for the whole banquet. Whoever was reclining there was chosen according to his wealth, his power, or his office. But here's the deal. If a more prominent man, and here, by the way, we are only talking about men, if a more prominent man arrived late, and this was almost always the case because that way they made a more grand entrance, the man of lesser rank was asked to move down to a less prestigious place. You can only imagine how that man must have felt as he got up in his shame, scrounging for a hole to crawl into as he shuffled for a lower place at the table. Now, just to say it, banquets of that day also had a very definite place and role for the poor. Their place was to hang out behind the feet, maybe next to the wall, or even hanging through the window, the open window. And their job was this: they were to exclaim with deep passion the numerous virtues and the bounty and the generosity of the host. They were to just exude these magnificent compliments regularly during the whole meal. And at the end, if there were any leftovers, guess what? They got to eat them. So at first glance, Jesus seems to be offering sound advice to those who are figuring out their place at the table. You choose the lowest place so you can be invited up instead of down. But here's the problem, and this is still a real problem for us Jesus followers today. The exhortation to be humble can be dangerous for those who have little self-worth. Now, I'm going to illustrate this just a bit. This past Wednesday, we celebrated the life of Pat Oakeshott, who died peacefully a couple of weeks ago. Before the service, her son Scott and I were standing at the altar and chatting, and Scott looked at me and he says, "You know what? My mother would be utterly embarrassed at anyone, even family, coming today." You see, Pat Oakeshott lived a quiet and purposefully, genuinely humble life. She never, ever wanted to be made a fuss over. She would be just the kind of person to somehow, if she heard this text, she would think, oh no, Jesus is talking about me. Here I go again, thinking too much of myself. And she would try to crawl to the lowest place possible. by the way, Wednesday, there was a huge gathering. I'm sure she was utterly embarrassed in the best way, utterly dismayed. I think now from heaven's vantage point, Pat may finally be able to celebrate how loved and cherished she was and is and will be. But back to the problem of Jesus urging us all not to move to the front of the table where the honor badges are handed out. I'm just going to claim this for myself, but I think there are some of us, myself probably most of all, who subconsciously may go through a little tricky thing inside our brain, and it goes like this. You see, I think I'll just deliberately go to the end because that's how it works. And then, you know, it's so pleasant to be moved up where I actually enjoy being. This is very tricky. Someone like myself might actually calculate how can I best position myself in a race for the lowest place, hoping to win the prize of being the most humble of all. If a contrast is needed to make the point, one might look at those persons of power whose names are handed down to us in the gospel. Pilate, Caesar, Herod, Caiaphas. Those who are powerful according to the conventional measurements of power. Those who exhibit no hesitation about occupying those places of honor. We might just ask, Caesar, how's it working out for you? Compared to Jesus, I mean. All who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Now here at Resurrection, every first Sunday of September, we lift up the teachers and the students who are in our midst and those who have come before us, and we put them at the center of our banquet. Now, before I start, I want to ask those of you who teach or have taught, would you please raise your hand and keep your hand up? Oh my goodness. Beautiful. Okay, this is for you, okay? Actually, all of us are teachers by just being human, because every action that we take in the world, for good or evil, influences other people. But today, I want to specifically lift up those of you who have honored us with the vocation of teacher. I want to share with you just a part of a reflection that a friend, he's a priest in New York, and also a very wise and loving teacher. And he wrote a piece called Ode to Teachers. And I'm just he wrote about 3 pages, and you'll be happy to know, have limited it to just a little bit of these beautiful reflections. But I want you to hear this, you who are teachers. A teacher is one who learns. A teacher is one who leads us to a distant star, and then joins us in the marvel of looking at the star in the first time sense of wonder, expectancy, and mystery. A teacher is one who listens. To hear and be sensitive to the sounds of silence means to tune into life itself, its questions, concerns, thoughts, feelings, comparisons, fears, anxieties, joys, securities, or lack of them, the teacher who listens plows the ground for future crops. A teacher is one who loves to help another achieve a new sense of identity, purpose, and meaning is one aspect of love. To forgive, console, touch, heal, and embrace those persons who feel unlovable is another. A teacher is one who laments. The lamenting teacher shows feelings and concerns about the brokenness in the world and is not only willing to teach what he or she has read about, but most importantly, to teach what he or she has lived. Being open to cry over the hurts of others gives passion to the class, without which learning remains only superficial. Finally, a teacher is one who laughs. To laugh at life, at self, is to express a joy which, though essential for life, the world is losing. To laugh is to comprehend and express the mysteries of life in a way that has no substitute. So, this day, especially to those of you who teach or have taught, and to all of us who are still learning, we thank you. We admire you. We put you at the center of the banquet. And of course, to Jesus, the best teacher ever, how awesome is your invitation. Thank you for this clarification, Teacher Jesus. Thank you for reminding us that everyone, even and especially the poor, have a place at the banquet. Not just at the periphery, but right along next to us, on our right and our left. That is the banquet that you have always intended, and it is the most joyous banquet of all. Learning, listening, loving, laughing. In some unexplainable way, because of Jesus, we are all invited, and we all hold the central seat, the most cherished seat, the most honored place of being loved. How amazing is that?